In an ideal world, one of the strongest things going for the selection of a good professor would have been that she is a woman, and this would be met with a lot of enthusiasm. Unfortunately, Professor Opoku-Agyemang hardly meets the expectations of someone who has a track record of fighting for women or their welfare. Luckily for all of us, Nana Opoku-Agyemang is not new to Ghana politics, and it's her performance during her period as a political appointee that we are going to continue referring to from now on in. We need not remind anybody that it was during her tenure that training teachers' allowances were scrapped. It was done without paying any heed to the many appeals to reconsider the decision. Indeed, it was one of the things she was proud to have done, scraping teacher allowances, that is training allowances. Teachers were the hardest hit when Nana Opoku-Agyemang was at the helm of affairs at the Education Ministry. Let it not again be forgotten that Professor Nana Opoku-Agyemang had been a teacher herself before she came to the position of Minister of Education. And yet, it was during her period that classroom teachers were denied common chalk to be able to write on blackboards. And we all remember the infamous saying, "We didn't give you chalk today or tomorrow," voiced by then Second Lady Matilda Misata, and Nana Opoku-Agyemang was in the saddle. Perhaps the worst thing that can be associated with her name was the Magtari saga. When the Magtari trio threatened death upon some Supreme Court justices, including the then Chief Justice, Theodora Georgina Wood, the then Education Minister, now newly appointed running mate, was one of those who joined the campaign for the release of the Magtari three. Indeed, her ardent anti-feminist position was too obvious to ignore when she appended her signature to the petition to have the trio, who had then been incarcerated at Nsawam, be freed against sound advice from well-meaning Ghanaians.
Well, I think that a woman has been nominated as the running mate, as we say, to a major political party in the country. And to that extent, we must congratulate the lady who the presidential candidate has found worthy to partner with him. So that's my initial comment on that. A calm woman, a woman of poise and balance. She speaks good English, yes, but is it good enough to satisfy the ticket? So if you're looking for a ticket, President Mahama is a communicator. So you want maybe a person who is a lawmaker or a lawyer who would add value to the governance architecture. He himself has been a member of parliament before. So one could, to be fair, say that he's acquired that experience from parliament. When I first heard, I thought it was going to settle on either Dr. Dufo or Nimoy, because they are, economists and finance experts of considerable standing. So I thought to complement the ticket, either of them could have done.
Apart from the sexist and baseless comments of Yaw Buabeng, the similarly disgraceful comment by the majority leader in parliament that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang is not capable of being described as president of the Republic of Ghana is one of the most backward and misogynistic statements by a high personality who should know better. Comments such as these are reminiscent of other similarly shameful statements made by President Akufo-Addo when he suggested that Ghanaian women are not dynamic enough at a conference in Canada sometime last year. The worst part of this embarrassment was that he made the comment at an international women's event, of all places, where he was scolded and schooled almost immediately by a fellow panelist on stage. Such sexist comments have unfortunately, but predictably, come to define President Akufo-Addo and his party, the New Patriotic Party. Concerning her plea for clemency for the Muntie trial, the good professor only signed the petition to mitigate the harsh sentences of the 3 convicts after they had served 3 weeks in prison and paid 10,000 each as fines for scandalizing the Supreme Court. Her decision to sign the petition to request for a reduced prison term for the convicts doesn't in any way mean that she endorsed the unfortunate comments as the MPP would have us believe. It must be noted that the woman we are talking about is a responsible and caring mother of 3 and a loving grandmother.
Right, so you've heard the NPP's Yaw Buabeng, Samoa Member of Parliament and also Director of Communications of the NPP, and you heard majority leader in Parliament, Osei Chairman Sebonsu. There is one part of his commentary that if you're expecting that we'll play on this platform, we have elected not to play that. And then the final one was the NDC's communications officer, Sami Gyamfi, reacting to the comments as were made by these individuals. Kweku, what do you make of the commentary that followed from the NPP's camp?
Honorable Eslousu's comments just before the last thing.
Okay.
You know, let's put this in proper perspective. I'm sure we all undoubtedly recognize the role of Madame Nana Akufo-Agyemang Rawlings in the women's liberation movement in this country and many other women before her. And long before even she became our First Lady, we had many distinguished women, even in the days of the battles for our colonial freedom from our masters and all of that. Historically, I believe that Ghanaian women have actually been part of this process for quite some time. Look at the informal sector, for example. And note that at the time when Mrs. Rawlings contested for that particular slot, she was actually contesting a former vice president. You understand? So the whole issue was not about whether she was a woman or not. It was just about the fact that people felt that a certain modicum of it should be maintained. And I'm sure that we all do recognize all the time the contribution of many other women to this process. But be that as it may, on this occasion, President Mahama has gone out there. He has actually struggled, you understand, like many other people, to make a decision of this kind.
Okay.
He has actually stood firm, you understand, led this effort through a very, very extended discussion point, and finally presented to the neck his choice for running mate. Like you indicated earlier, there were many individuals, all of them in their own right, capable of this opportunity. But you see, when we talk about my sister Esla's comments, for example, I remember her accusing her own party members at the time, vociferously, and there's a video that has surfaced about their hostility towards female leaders. I remember the days of Madame Hawa Yakubu as a member of Parliament. Long before then, there was Madame Adiza Munkaila. Mr. Baako is here. There have been amazing women capable of occupying the highest office of the land. But let's go back to Nana as an individual. And she's not a teacher, a lecturer of many students across the world.
All right.
And you know, when we reduce the debate to these conversations, you begin to wonder just what is going on.
Okay.
If we had gone to any of those other women. So you have made the distinction about
the contestation where Nana Akufo-Agyemang came in. All right,
and
thank you.
I get my sister Esla to be saying, is it the fact that President Mahama has made this bold choice that sets him apart from President Akufo-Addo?
Okay.
President Akufo-Addo had every opportunity to even go for Haji Alima in 2008, but he did not.
All right.
And look, make no mistake, Nana Opoku-Agyemang is a new benchmark.
All right.
Not of an existing standard.
So, Kweku, now the question I asked you was, having heard what you heard, the reaction from the NPP's communications and the majority leader, and the reaction from the NDC, what do you say of those comments? And then, what is it that does not work for Nana Opoku-Agyemang going into the 2020 elections?
See, let me be very frank with you. I listened to Buabeng and Samoa's thing. I didn't see or hear an attack on the gender of Professor Nana Opoku-Agyemang. I didn't hear that. I thought I rather heard the intention to critique her track record in public service, particularly as a minister. That's what I heard. I didn't hear any attack on her gender. That is with Buabeng and Samoa. Now, with the majority leader, what you played, unless there's something extra that you didn't play.
But even with Buabeng and Samoa, I mean, honestly, wouldn't you expect that someone from the opposition, Mr. Baako, at least would be measured even in his level of criticism?
No, you see?
If Nana were his mother or his sister or his lecturer, I mean, I'm sure he would speak with a certain modicum of respect. You see, I think we should stop focusing on the fact that she's female and focus on what she brings to the table, what she stands for.
So let Kweku finish his
You see, this is a very tricky matter, and
Yes,
if you're
it
not
is very-
careful,
Absolutely.
you can be misunderstood.
Right.
But Madam Joyce Bauer, your own statement projects the fact that she's a woman and you are seeking to elevate women to the highest office of the land. Your own statement.
But that you cannot
That's
take
a
away.
fact.
That is a
and
fact.
she says that this is a new
it is
benchmark.
a bold step.
Exactly.
A new
She just
benchmark.
said
Now
Yes.
you were going to Chairman Sabonsu's
That's why I said, unless there's something else you play.
There's a lot of words, actually.
Because why you
Maybe
played
you
for
should have.
us to interrogate, there's no attack on the woman. As a woman. To be honest, if there is, then play so that we can deal with it properly. So I don't. See,
I just ask what your comment about what he had to say or what they had to say is about. Not about whether there's an attack on women or not.
That's unavoidable. Then DC's own statement, look, listen, there's a statement where they make the point that, let me read it. Distinguished friends from the media, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang is a God-fearing leader who exudes profound humility, honesty, competence, decency, and patriotism. She has unblemished integrity and can be trusted to restore, operative word, restore the honor and dignity the office of the Vice President has lost in the last 3.5 years when elected. In politics, I understand why they're making this point, but predictably, it will bring a counter. And you have to have the heart to accommodate these things. So that's why I say that in critique of her track record, however merciless it is, should be taken on board.
Right. And
That's
Chairman
politics.
Sabonsu is looking for a lawyer, an economist, or something of the sort, and not...
That's not attack on the gender of the lady.
No, I'm not. I'm saying, what do you say about that?
Well, you can challenge that on many levels. President Mahama, when he was paid, was more known for his communication. But of course, had been a member of parliament for some time, had been a deputy minister and a minister, so he came with some political clout. But that I won't go for. There's nowhere in the Constitution or the eligibility factor that tells you that it should be a lawyer who can be a vice president or an effective vice president. So those things I don't worry myself about.
Or an economist.
Or an economist. There's nothing like that. We all know. But that's his opinion he's expressing. Earlier on, I had heard that he had attacked the woman from the position of her being a woman. And I thought you were going to play that for us.
Samson, you better play it.
No, because look, let me tell you what I've seen somewhere. Let me tell you what I've seen. This is on a certain platform. It's an MPP platform, which I've seen. I'm told there's this line, and I thought that I was going to hear it. He says, how can this woman become president? Did he say that?
He did.
Yes, but he didn't say how can a woman.
But he did.
But this is in reference to the lady.
But
this,
what is wrong?
If he had said, how can a woman
Professor Nana
become president or vice president or act in the absence of the president, that you can ask questions.
But he did.
But he said
that
woman,
as well. And that how can she act in the event that President Mahama is unwell or out of office?
Well, you see, I'm cornered now. We need to play the thing.
Play it.
If you have
the event
yes,
that he died.
Yes. Oh, he did.
In the event
yes,
that
he did.
in the event that the NDC won the elections and President Mahama, touched it, and he said that many times.
The operative word is this. Now, it is not that a woman. It means he's questioning her capability to step into the shoes.
Even the manner in which he puts it is very derogatory. Even
now you are if you think his choice of words.
Exactly.
But you see, but I'm saying that you are in this political game. I just read to you what your own communications officer has said relative to her coming into the vice president's office. It's an innuendo of a sort against the sitting vice president.
But
it's accepted.
That is a new benchmark.
It is accepted. It's this statement by Sami Jemfi, you may say is derogatory, but it's acceptable in politics. They are taking a jab.
No, he didn't take a jab. He made a statement of fact.
That?
Yes. And you've said it. It's a conventional
Madam, I appeal to her. I said she's a decent woman. I respect her. She deserves the selection and all that, but she should be ready.
She's very ready. But you know
the other part of my question to you was what doesn't work for her going into the elections as a running mate?
Like I said, it's interesting. Her profile at the Ministry of Education, her delivery, all those things will become on board. Education for this administration is one of their key areas. They are flashpoints. Whether I'm not talking about efficiency or competence in terms of delivery. That's not what I'm talking about. But it is a priority area. Obviously, the free SHS will become a priority area. What is Madam Jane Opoku-Agyemang coming on board relative to that? Because there will be a debate out there. This is what we have delivered. This is how we have delivered it. What did you do? They will come on board with their progressively free education option. We have to do a comparative to see how the two went. The building of the E-blocks were promised 200. When she was exiting, I have a handing over notes here. She indicated that they had been able to complete 47. That is what she said here. That is an issue. 4 years. You had told us you build 200 E-blocks in 4 years.
She told us?
Her administration. You see, that's the point. I told you can't put a Chinese wall between her and the flag bearer in terms of the administration. I've seen a very intriguing attempt, and I read it again from the NDC statement. It says, firstly, the claim that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang cancelled teacher training allowance is false. The decision to replace teacher training allowances with student loan was a cabinet decision and not a ministerial decision.
And in fact, they even asked them to
this is turning logic and science on its head.
But are we saying that teachers are the only constituents within the ministry?
No, we are talking specific. I picked
just one item.
Of course.
There are many others we can actually set the record straight.
Yes, I agree with you.
I think that is
what I'm doing is to just to outline the issues that will be debated vigorously. And I'm saying that
this is your answer to my question, what doesn't work for her?
Her track record in government would be examined. And then I think to a very large extent, it will be minus.
Why?
Not because she was incompetent, but because the administration she served could not deliver on all those things they put out. Let's be honest and draw that. That's why, you see, it's too early now. This debate has just started. In fact, I haven't even heard her talk. I've told she's issued an acceptance statement, which I haven't seen. But I haven't heard her talk. These issues will be determined. But let me make the point I was making. That how are you trying to divorce the ministerial from the cabinet? That's a sign of weakness, that you don't really have a solid case to sell. Because look, the minister, and fortunately Madam has been a deputy minister before, the minister or the ministry prepares a memo on such key issues. Memo goes to cabinet. Cabinet discusses it. And then whatever they do there, changes or no changes, is adopted as a government policy.
Okay.
So for somebody to come around and say, oh, that it was a cabinet decision, not ministerial, it's just a peddling a fallacy.
I think Sami JP was responding directly to what Mr. Buabeng actually said.
All right.
But as I said, the Ministry of Education
the NPP finds that one other thing that will not work for her is that she doesn't support the women's cause. And they make reference to one particular instance, the reprehensible conduct of the Muntie 3 that we all roundly condemned, that she appeared to have rather supported it. From what you know, is that what happened?
You know, we're doing politics here. A little bit of propaganda. She's going to have to suffer those fallouts. But you know my position. First of all, I was not enthused about even the contempt proceedings. That's a certain principle I have.
Right.
You may say it's not valid. It doesn't matter. It's a personal thing, a consensuous objection.
You and I voted for Atachia for his boldness in going to the court to tell them in their faces that that's not a messy chamber.
Yeah, so I wasn't happy with the proceeding in itself.
Right.
Then also, I was against custodial sentence,
right,
even if the court were minded to punish or sanction. And unfortunately, they did a custodial sentence. I wasn't happy, truly. Now, after the verdict, the ball game had changed. It was only the political leadership, in this case the president, who could exercise his powers of clemency. Right. Okay, that was a political decision. That political decision had implications. Do I do it or don't I don't do it? You do it, what are the fallout?
The specific that Buabeng Samoa relies on
is the petition.
Is that Nana Opoku-Agyemang voted for that?
Yes, she signed it.
That reckless.
Yes, so she has to live with the fallouts. That's the point I was making.
From what you know, is that what she voted for? What did she sign for? She signed for clemency, or she endorsed their action?
No. That's why I said there's politics.
That's politics. And propaganda.
It will come on board, whether you like it or not.
All right.
They all do it.
All right.
But you see, the point is that she was signing for the clemency.
Right.
That's fact. Yeah. But that fact and its execution had political implications for the administration of the day.
I get that. Listen to Chairman Sabonso again, then we can go to Joyce and then to Esla on Zoom. Listen to Chairman Sabonso here.
The president, if he wanted a woman, and when they were mentioning some women, I honestly thought that we have some women of some demonstrable competence who have risen through this house to establish themselves firmly in the firmament. One such person could be Hannah Tete. She has been a member of parliament. She was a minister, a foreign affairs minister, and some other area. So he has learned the rules. A former member of parliament, I thought she could also have complemented the president's ticket. Or another person, the former Attorney General, Marita Buapeng, I mean, a solid person. I thought she was also coming up strongly. So if you wanted women, even the previous one, the first Attorney General, she had some skeletons. Betty Modidusu, she had some skeletons relating to Woyumi. Other than that, she's also somebody. But you ask yourself, what value is this woman going to add to that ticket?
All right, okay, so that's where this sound will be paused. There is the portion where he then asks the question, supposing that they won power and President Mahama died, will this woman fit as president? And I think that is what Chairman Sabonso has suffered the attacks for. Once that is not played, Kweku will like to act like he's in the courtroom, so he will not speak about what is not here in the evidence.
Yeah, okay. but you know, I mean, I still don't see an attack on a woman as a woman. That's not what I see. I see, because he's even talking of Hannah Tete, talking of Marita, and talking of Betty Moe. These are all women.
But he takes,
and so he's looking at level of capability and competence in his value judgment. But if I'd had an attack on a woman because she's a woman, then I'll be worried. Look, but let's be honest. Whilst all these three, Buabeng, Samoa, and Osei Chamins, I'm prepared to defend them as a matter of principle relative to the allegations being made against them. There's one that I've seen. So I'm sure sometimes you don't like us to bring this thing. But the one by the Asante Regional Chairman of the party, very unfortunate.
Right.
And that is what doesn't help the MPP as a party.
Because he's one of those that ESLA has, you know.
Yes, he's a regional chairman, for goodness sake, and of their stronghold. Okay? So yes, take out Useche Mason, take out Buabeng Samoa, and this being fair. In his case, he's provided the ammo for us to come back on the same level and say the party is attacking women. The party must dissociate itself from Wuntumi's statements, and indeed, maybe issue a reprimand, some query, publicly, if they cannot sanction him properly. Then we can move on.
Okay.
But these two things you've played here for me today, I'm not convinced.
But you know, as a footnote to what Mr. Baako just said, you know, and I'm inclined to believe that sometimes Kweku tries very hard to walk the straight and narrow on these matters. I would have been expected that my senior ESLA would indeed even be reprimanding the Honorable Chairman Sabonso himself. He is our majority leader of Ghana, not of just Parliament, you understand? And indeed, I don't think the Parliament even is a yardstick. I mean, when you talk about the other individuals he mentioned, apart from Hannah Tete, for example, Marita has never been in Parliament. So it somehow even defeats and undermines his own
but
notions.
The experience in the Attorney General's department, and Chimensa is looking at a lawyer. You should get that.
I think that we overburden professional qualifications. I was a lawyer as early as probably before I turned 20. I don't think it makes me special or unique in any capacity whatsoever against another person who is a student of mathematics, for example.
You need a lawyer's eye on everything. Everything. You need a lawyer's eye.
Have you ever heard of a profession that has such versatility as the law? We've had classmates who were medical doctors, accomplished medical doctors. You understand? There's something called medical law. There's something called medical negligence.
All of that is not substitute. It's not substitute
single-handed
for quality training in law.
But it does not in any way take away from another person's academic qualifications. She has a Juris Doctorate in law. The only thing is that she didn't go to law school.
Right.
There are many of us like that.
She's actually accredited with pioneering the Cape Coast law faculty.
The medical faculty. And in fact, she told me an interesting story about how she got Cape Coast to use the chemistry students to produce cleaning detergents to clean the university campus, to produce soap for the University of Cape Coast. When you talk about the type of economy that we have, it needs no lawyer, it needs no economist. In fact, Mr. Baako here is a fantastic example of someone who not only knows how to interpret the law, but how to use it to his advantage even. And recently I heard about his matter with Kennedy Japan, for example. Let's put this on record, that what Nana brings to the table is quality.
But that doesn't take away, Joyce, because of where you sit and your training. It doesn't take away. No. It doesn't take away Chairman's expectation that it is good to have an economist to complement a presidential candidate who is not an economist, who is a communications expert, and that in the absence of that, maybe a lawyer would better suit
Samson.
The complement the ticket.
I totally disagree with you. The fulcrum around leadership is the level of expertise around you. The most successful Secretary of the Exchequer in the United Kingdom was Gordon Brown, himself a lawyer. Kwesi Bochwe, the professor, is himself a lawyer. In recent times, there's been a certain convention. But today, where are we on the economy?
Okay.
Sometimes we need to look at pragmatism and practical examples. To listen to Nana speak about job creation will be a marvel to all of us here. And I look forward to that speech that will restate her rightfulness to be included on this ticket.
Do you find, though, that the examples that he preferred, the preferences that he made, they are all lawyers? There's no economists in that.
Well, I told you that.
He spoke about Hannah Tete,
spoke about
that's a lawyer,
yes,
Marietta, a lawyer,
absolutely.
Betty Mould, a lawyer.
Yes, exactly. None of whom have any economic experience. So you see, that's what I mean. Sometimes, even in the things we say in our haste to play this political game, I'm sure he lost track of his own thoughts. And I even cracked a joke that if I was his daughter, my father had 7 daughters and 1 son. I would have called him, Daddy, please. You didn't say this properly. Kindly render an unqualified apology. Most of the examples he gave are individuals in their own right, as I said.
Right.
The reason why we go out to nominate or to vote to elect a president or a vice president is because we believe in people who care about this nation, who show a certain passion.
Let's get to Esla.
I would expect to hear Esla at least even, considering that she has tried very hard. And you've heard all the accolades and the congratulatory messages that have come for Nana's nomination. They have come also for the man who made this bold choice.
Right.
And they've come not just from female or feminists or activists for that matter. They have come from across the world. The local interest alone is enormous. Because for the first time, this is a woman who is more than qualified, even to serve as president.
Let's hear from Esla. And Esla, I may put you in a bit of an invidious position here. I am your constituent, and let me be frank and confess to you that once a woman is put on the ticket, my bias is to vote for a woman. I'm not saying that as far as a presidential candidate, that is what will go for me. So this must make a difference. You cannot discount her ability to bring on people who may be minded like myself. If you were put on a ticket, I more likely would want to vote for you. So listen to Chairman Sabonsu and then respond to this question.
Perish the thought. I'm not wishing that in any way. But let's assume that John becomes the president. And tomorrow, and let me emphasize the point, perish that thought. And the next day, he's no longer. Is this woman capable of being described as the president of the republic? And that is, it has nothing to do with her person. I'm talking about the quality in governance that she could affect and infect this country with. Is he the person? I don't think so at all. So that's where I have my problem.
Okay. So let's begin this way with you, Esla. Did you find him being derogatory about the passing of Nana Opoku-Agyemang?
Absolutely not. He is making an argument that, in his opinion, he doesn't think she is capable of even being the vice president. He thinks that there are more capable women who could have been running mate to John Mahama because of the qualities that they bring to the table. And that, in his opinion, he doesn't think Nana Opoku-Agyemang qualifies. He is entitled to his opinion.
Right.
And if you listen to the trend of the entire argument, this is the consistent position that he's been making. But the NDC is good at creating their own distortions and answering it. And it's the exact same thing with Yaw Buabeng Asamoah. He criticized her work, never challenged her person. He assessed her track record, never challenged her person. And yet, they've somehow thrown it into the public domain that these two have done something that is so offensive to women in decision making. Don't you think
that your reaction could have also fed to those who thought that you were actually attacking people like Chairman Sabonsu and Yaw Buabeng.
Which reaction?
You said that you were surprised and shocked about how people in your party, you know, were sort of attacking women, so to speak, and that is not the way to go.
I never said that relative to anything happening now.
Okay.
I am talking about the consistent position of the political parties in this country, MPP, NDC, CPP, whatever, when it comes to women's representation in decision-making. And I have consistently held that position. Like they say in when you assess all the parties, I think MPP is slightly better than the rest of them. But I still think that they can do even better, even more than they have done. Right. I haven't said anything or responded to anything that, any comment that I have made. I spoke on the day that the nomination was made and issued that general caution, not subsequently, no.
Okay.
But let us all be clear in our minds that their choice will be criticized. The ticket will be criticized. We will do our politics. You all need, and the NDC, they think they have a monopoly on dishing out insults. They've called Dr. Baumia a liar, whatever. Even in their own statement, they're saying he's brought disrespect to the office of vice president. You think it is okay to dish it out, and yet no one should respond to it. The criticism will come. But the caution I'm issuing is that let's focus on the essentials. Her track record, her performance, even her ability to even serve in that position in the unlikely event that they win the elections. And that is exactly what Chairman Sabonsu was doing.
Okay.
Exactly what is offensive about that. Even after he said that, he was careful to say that it is not an attack on her as a person.
That's right.
And yet they edit all those parts out, create their own distinction, and answer it. Kweku, I agree with you that one to me went a bit overboard, and what he said was unacceptable. And I won't sit here and defend it in any way. But to ask the party to issue a disclaimer, I think is going a bit too far. He spoke in his personal capacity. No one asked him to go and say that.
He's a chairman of the party in the region.
It still doesn't make him any less than an individual. I'm making a point there.
It's difficult to divorce him from his office.
When John Jinapo, spokesperson to Vice President John Mahama, sat on Metro TV with me, told me to my face that I sat on men's laps to get to the position that I had occupied. I wrote an open letter to then Vice President Mahama, telling him, drawing his attention to what his spokesperson had said, and asking him to dissociate himself from it, reprimand him, and ask him to apologize and withdraw that. I did not hear a peep out of him, not even an acknowledgement of my letter. So if today you tell me that he is in some way friendly to women by this choice, we will look at their track record. Okay. What have they done consistently up to now when it comes to the rights of women? Okay. And Montier 3 is very important.
And finally and briefly, briefly.
You're asking for clemency for people who've sat and publicly vilified and called for the raping and murdering of a Chief Justice who's just doing her job. I think that takes the cake. When you never ever spoke in defense of the Chief Justice when she was being vilified and attacked.
Their point was that
no one spoke in defense of her.
Their point was that they had already been punished. They had made payments, and they had stayed in prison for a while and has expressed sufficient remorse. And so, by the same measure that we all together, particularly on this platform with Kweku Baako, pleaded for all the others who came before them, including my good friend John, God bless his soul. We pleaded for all of them. How is that different?
The point I'm making is, when those offensive comments were being made, What did she, as a representative, we're being told now, of women in the NDC say about it? Now, and we don't have time, but when it comes to NDC people making certain statements which offend other women from other political parties, none of them ever speak up in their defense.
Okay.
Not one. I haven't heard even one.
Right.
And that is where the selectivity comes in, which goes at the root of it.
Yeah.
Now, moving on, why I think that she is also not going to be a very useful addition to the ticket. Free SHS. NDC sponsored over 200 adverts attacking the MPP policy during their campaign in 2016. She was the Minister of Education at the time. Not once did we hear her saying that, making it possible for children who, because of the lack of finances, would drop out of school, to give them an opportunity to go to school is a good thing and will empower them in life. She never said that. Even after the policy was introduced, they sponsored demonstrations against it. I'm sure you've seen that clip. Free education 419, free education 419. You, former Minister for Education, a policy that has saved 1 million young children from falling through the cracks, who would if but for that, have not been able to get an education. What do you say? You say nothing about it.
What do you say?
And now you're telling us we should accept you.
In 30 seconds, what do you say to the NDC's communication that says that who is better placed to supervise the current education policy than someone like her? And so, as far as they are concerned, at the top, vice presidential level, she is going to give the best of supervision for the free SHS program.
That she didn't even believe in the first place. Now they say you look at what she did as minister to decide whether she would be able to superintend any educational policy successfully if given the chance. She failed abysmally in that position and left an educational system that was near tatters. Ghana even had to pull out of international standards, examinations, assessments, because we were failing so miserably. So
really?
We opt out.
We thought that the record showed that the country posted the best BEC and WASI results during her tenure.
And for 4 years running, Ghana received the topmost awards for those exams. You know that is not true.
Okay,
let's
so what do you say to Esla when she says, when you say this is an indication and vindication of President Mahama wanting to champion the cause of women, and she mentions that encounter, I'm surprised she's able to repeat that, what John Jinapo had to say, and that the president didn't even have the courtesy to say anything about it, not even an acknowledgement of her letter to reprimand John Jinapo?
I can bet you that you can see, and since that incident, you observe that John Jinapo specifically has been one of the most composed, well-poised operatives we have in Parliament today. And you'll be interested to know that John in particular is one of those gentlemen. Look, I've been on programs with my sister Esla. Sometimes she can really push you, even for someone as calm as myself. I would never say that what John said or did at the time was right.
Can be justified.
Absolutely. And it cannot be right then, it would not be right today. But I would always call for enormous respect and honesty. And I believe that you can tell there's a touch of hypocrisy even in my senior's submissions this morning, in her refusal to condemn and admit that whatever Oseche Mensah Bonsu said goes to the root of who Nana Opoku-Agyemang is, including the fact that she's female. You can also look at the fact that even in 2012, if you recall, at the peak of the campaign, there was a debate.
So we heard Oseche Mensah Bonsu.
Absolutely. Then
he was very clear.
Debate was
he was very clear in separating her womanhood.
I think he did a very
from the comments and stating rather her capacity.
No, he did a very poor job of it. And I think what defeated all that he tried to say was the fact that he said touch wood in the absence of President Mahama. Please, Samson, please. Nana Opoku-Agyemang can even stand to be elected as President of Ghana. And you see, let's not undervalue, and I'm sure Isla knows, the contribution of Nana to education in this country. The policies that she has lived by example, first and foremost, by her teaching, by her pronouncement, by her passion. Not what Nana did to child education, primary education in Ghana. Not what she did for teacher to child ratios in Ghana. For the very first time, the monitoring of the GES of educational institutions was at its best. In the terms of the promise to deliver on the 200 schools, for example, in the space of 4 years, she left handing over of 46 of those buildings, as against a 350 promise that they made that we are still waiting to be delivered. You see, I believe that if anybody understands our modern educational culture and has lived it and has experienced it, it is Nana Jane. Do you know the gift of a female who encourages other young girls to go to school and stay at school? You recall the criticism that greeted her proposal of the sanitary pads for young girls. Those things keep girls out of school. My mother was in charge of the girl child education. There were times when she would spend her own money to buy sanitary towels for young girls because that was the only way they would stay at school. She would even teach them how to use it.
If you followed,
so when we talk
on the issue of promoting women,
something, let me finish.
On the issue of promoting women, can we find any specifics?
Many specifics.
And the example that comes to me immediately, if you followed Chief Justice Wood,
absolutely,
she was deliberate in putting in place programs deliberately intended to promote women, encouraging women to become lawyers from the scratch. Is that something we can point to that she did that promotes women specifically?
Beautiful example of a scholar currently on the University of Ghana campus, a physicist, Dr. Amakluche, who will tell you that Nana Jane is a role model. She encouraged her. She encouraged and developed content for the National Science and Math quiz. The idea was to promote sciences for the girl child. She has actually tried in every step of her way to encourage girls. And remember, she started from Wesley Girls High School. She has lived it, she has taught it, she has shared it. I keep telling you that unlike all of us, Nana could have gone the corporate way, you understand, and made all the money in the world. How has she used her talents in linguistics? She has encouraged teaching of young children in vernacular, for example, to be sure that children do not leave because they are unable to communicate in English. She believes that the best way of instruction for a young child is actually to instruct them in the language that they are comfortable with. It builds confidence, it gives them security, it encourages them even to stay in school. You know, Nana Jane, unlike any other minister for education, is one of those individuals who has lived her experience of what suits our educational policy.
Sam George, a member of the communication and an MP, his first reaction when the nomination, the selection was announced was that she, with her pedigree, will better supervise a free SHS program and improve it.
Remember that it was even a program
you don't have the blueprint. You didn't even believe in it to start with.
She called
How do you do that?
At the inception of free SHS, if you remember, Nana Jane was one of those who called for a blueprint. She called for a roadmap. She called for government to tell us how they intended first to implement, secondly to execute, and thirdly to keep and sustain this project. You know, let's put this conversation in proper perspective. And I would want us to have an issues-based debate. Who would you give your children to educate? A woman who has lived and educated many other women to become like Eslawusu and I, or one who has sat in a little corner and probably participated every now and then when there's a conversation. I think Nana emulates all that we call feminism and feminists. I believe that her life epitomizes her contribution to the cause of women and the empowerment of women. You can ask Professor Techiwa Menu, ask Professor F.4 Sutherland, go to the Ghana Academy of Sciences when they didn't even have a permanent building. Nana ensured as education minister that they made a point to deliver this. And remember, the subject of the teacher allowances, the education ministry comes with a huge constituency beyond teachers. And I can bet you I've met teachers who have celebrated Nana's nomination as Ghana's very first VP nominee of a huge and largely successful political party.
Yes, Kweku, Kweku wants to make a few points and then we'll close the chapter on this
on the subject of the Muntie 3.
Yeah.
You know, I think it is a matter that I have responded to so many times, Samson. We have cases where presidents, in their own right, have even pardoned murderers. It is something that a president is allowed within his prerogative to do, and the Constitution allows you so to do. On this occasion, those boys, and I've met some of them, pretty decent on an ordinary day.
There was a groundswell of opposition
against
by decent Ghanaians against it. And the president decided to take that decision.
I'm sure Mr. Baako is a decent Ghanaian. So is President Mahama. They have children the same age, which is what sets them apart from us. She has raised children that age. They had made these very, very, very unflattering, terrible remarks.
Yeah, so you let them suffer the punishment.
They had suffered part of the punishment. They had shown remorse. They had paid the fines. And in fact, between us, they have never repeated similar statements. But be that as it may, we've had thugs of this political ruling government who attacked a court where a pregnant judge was sitting in Kumasi at a high court specifically. Yes, some individuals have condemned those actions, but did this not happen?
Yeah, but we're talking about Nana, Jean,
and that's what I'm telling you. I'm giving you examples.
Opoku-Agyemang, okay.
That doesn't mean that those boys, those men, those thugs who attacked that judge in that court, that if they finished serving a sentence or they were in the course of serving it and had shown similar remorse, had paid the fines, and they were young people whose lives could even be re-engineered, rebuilt, would that not make a difference?
All right.
And remember, you are a parent. Would you always pick up a long cane and start lashing at your child all the time? These boys have shown remorse.
You don't want to invite my views on that because we were so against it.
We can do the politics
today.
But yes, we admit that they had actually shown remorse.
Okay.
And I believe that Sir John and others had told a similar line.
All right.
They expressed regret.
Kweku, so what would be your final
I'm so
comment?
happy you played Chairman Sambonsu's full tape. I was so happy. It settles the issue.
Okay.
Of course, that point about if the president were to die, in our language, these things are very simple and easy. And
you say,
fortunately, thank you. And fortunately, he said, perish the thought twice. Of course, we have a precedent where a president has died in office before. No, let me finish. So once that part is out, I think it's good. And next time, people should rely on what was actually said and not their own interpretation. Okay. But I'm a bit surprised at Madame Owusu's decision. No, she doesn't agree with me relative to reprimanding.
At the party official level.
Look, this has collateral damage or implications for the party. When the party itself is clear in its mind, including Madame, that we are not going to attack the woman because she's a woman. We are focused on her track record, professionally and politically, and deal with those issues, which is the right thing to do. And then you have a regional chairman distorting and polluting the environment with all those utterances. And you say the party doesn't really matter in this matter, in this case. And her recollection of her letter to Vice President Mahama then, which didn't have any results, does not take away the principle that when party officials, particularly leading ones, do what Wontumi did, he ought to be reprimanded.
All right.
In fact, her experience, the fact that Vice President Mahama did not react the way she wanted, doesn't take away the principle at all.
Okay.
And I'm surprised she will not come along with me.
I'm sure that it is even possible that Mr. Jinapo may have been reprimanded.
But privately,
thank you.
Exactly. Publicly.
Well, but if you reprimand him privately, at least tell the petitioner that this has happened. Because as we speak, she doesn't know about that.
I've asked about my senior's own relationship with John Jinapo over the years. And I'm sure she knows that
this is where we draw the curtains on the discussion on the topic on Professor Jean Nana Opoku-Agyemang's running mateship with with John Mahama.
You finish, and that is something that I've actually thought about over the weeks. We welcome a debate on issues. We welcome a debate on policies. What we do not welcome or accept is somebody's definition of who a feminist is or who an activist of gendered issues.
Thank you. So we return to ask the question whether or not, looking at our numbers, as in the coronavirus infections and spread, there is the need for a relook at the easing of the restrictions. In fact, when the restrictions were eased, the president's commitment was that the science and the data will dictate a potential review of the circumstances. That is not warranted now. Dr. John Amwesi will join us. We'll be right back.